Good morning, Dr. Braks. Welcome to the SEPA studio. Tell us a little bit about your experience. You are a PhD from a Dutch university, you had training in the US, you're specialized in vector control of mosquitoes and rodents, and you now work for the Dutch National Public Health and Environment Institute. What are your current projects?
My current project is on emerging zoonotic diseases. Zoonoses are diseases that can be transmitted from animals to humans, and since avian influenza and other diseases arrived in Europe, our government was very keen to know which other future zoonotic disease was to be expected.
So you think this is a serious threat for Europe in the coming years?
Yes, because the current fact that people move around the world so often and a lot of trade movements are so enormous around the world that we get in contact within 24 hours with the rest of the world. So there are more threats we have to consider.
SEPA organized a conference in Krakow a few months ago around the theme of invasive species and vector control of them. You participated in that along with a number of other academics. What was your motivation to come?
I think it was nice to be invited to such a organization, because we don't very often are visiting these kind of festivities or conferences, and I think it's very important, especially for pest control, that we are reminded why we do pest control.
Is it a big issue? You know, I'd like to remind you of a quote I heard from a member of the European Parliament last year when the debate was going on around biocides. Someone said, "Why should we hesitate about abolishing anticoagulants? I've never seen a rat." Have you seen a rat? How many are there around? Do we have an idea?
There are several problems with rodents. Is that in many countries it used to be a national surveillance. It was central organized, but a lot of these organizations are decentralized. So most countries don't have an actual number on the amount of rodents. But we know from counts from some farms that are actually farms that they have hundreds of rats going around, and they actually move from one farm to another farm. So we know rats are a problem, and a lot of people don't realize that we do control rats, and we have made mistakes in the past by thinking when the problem is not there that the problem will stay away when you don't control it anymore.
So you think prohibiting biocides is a realistic option in the light of the continued need to protect public health for European citizens?
I think we will always need biocides. The thing is that we need, there are several ways how you can control pests, and it's an integrated pest control. That means that you have to take preventive measures, but you also need some biocides that help you to finish the task. And if you do it all in an integrated way, I think it can be done in a safe way.
So can you expand a little bit on this idea of integrated approach to controlling nuisances?
Sure, there are, in integrated pest control you have prevention, you have to have observation, and then you have intervention. And very often there are measures that you can prevent either invasive species to come or that animals become a pest. Because very often we have this saying that you have to control pest animals or animal pests, and it's a different thing. Because we really want to prevent that pest animals become a pest.
We always relate urban pests with public health. Do we have any idea what the impact on the cost of public health is? Can we quantify in one way or another what would happen if we didn't do anything about it?
That's actually a new thing in public health, that we are kind of forced to put a cost to public health, because we are facing a lot of other pressures, economic pressures and crises, that in government they have to prioritize where they spend their money. So in public health very often it's very hard to measure. and there are tools in development to assess that. And I think we should be aware that, of course, there are a lot of big issues, but I think it would be wrong to forget the small issues that we can easily control right now, but if we ignore it, it will be a problem.
Coming back to what you said about integrated pest management, I'd like you to expand just a second on what challenges you see for a more sustainable approach to pest management and how they can be overcome, if you could give us your opinion, your views on that.
For rodent, for example, resistance is certainly a major challenge, but I think it's a good thing that biocides are European-wide organized, but in Holland we really try to have an accurate and effective, safe way of using biocides, and if the burden to register better, maybe safer biocides is very high, it will be less effective. So now we are narrowing the amount of biocides possible, but actually when you want to do a good integrated management, you should apply a certain formulation on the right moment, in the right formulation. So sometimes the availability of more kind of biocides would be safer, instead of narrowing it down, that one product should be used for everything, what is not the right legal use, or it should not be used that way.
That's an interesting view, which brings me to the next topic. SEPA is, as you probably know, collaborating with the European Standards Institute, SEN, to develop a voluntary professional standard for our industry. Now, how do you think the introduction of such a standard, which we can expect within the next 12 to 18 months, how this will affect the attitude of the public and of the authorities to pest management?
I think it will be very good. I've been working in the United States where, for example, mosquito control is all organized by semi-government, and they have really high standards how to perform your pest control, and it's most of the time in public spaces. And the view of the public to those activities are much better since it become very transparent, and you can explain what happened, and standards will help with that.
And who, in your view, will in general benefit from the development of such a standard?
I think because I think it will improve safe use of biocides, I think everyone will benefit. The government, the public, only the persons that are not willing to comply will not benefit, and I think that's one of the aims to clean up the business.
And to conclude, perhaps just some thoughts on how you see the future of pest management in light of all these new initiatives being undertaken?
I think it becomes everything becomes more public, because the public is more aware of things. They have access to a lot of internet, so I think there will be more discussion about it, and that's another reason to be prepared for questions. But I think there will be always a good argument for safe use of pesticides, and many people who are not in the business are not aware of pests, and that is only because we are still ahead of the pests and we can control them.
Thank you very much for your views. Welcome anytime to come back.
Thank you. My pleasure.